War Eagle War Rapport family, I'm your host, C-Dub. SEC Media Days is in the books, and all of the guys have returned to give a thorough recap of what went down at SEC Media Days in the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Rapport Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. War Eagle, happy Sunday. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. All of the guys are back, and we welcome you to the latest Weekend Tailgate brought to you by our show sponsor, Athletic Architects. Guys, if you are a student athlete, parent of a student athlete, or are just looking to start an LLC, please be sure to go to buildthehouse.com so you can begin building your financial house today. Shouts out to them for sponsoring us. Also, shout out to you guys for hanging out with us on a Sunday, live or whether it's on replay. We appreciate you guys, but we need you to do a favor. If you're on social media, please share this video, drop the hashtag, and help people to find our content. If you're watching us, don't just be lurking, guys. Smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe, hit the notification bell. We greatly appreciate it. As for being a patron of the War Rapport, I'm here to tell you all about it and why you need to become one. You're muted, Ike.
You're muted.
I definitely was muted. Anyway, membership to the War Rapport helps us to continue to do all the things that we need to do to bring you coverage like we did recently of SEC Media Days. That's the way that you all can be a part of the family that helps us get that. For those of you who are patrons, I apologize. I have been so crazy busy this last week. I told you guys I was going to have some footage for you. I will get that done this week before I get out of town again. But I got something special for you coming with that. Speaking of things special that we have going on, if you are a patron, tomorrow, Damari Alston, we will drop our interview with the young boy for you guys tomorrow. We got him here talking about the running back room and his experience so far at Auburn. That's going live tomorrow for the members. If you're already a member, then you know we got Shed Jackson that's out there right now. That will be live for everyone coming up this Thursday. As always, we're going to be giving away stuff. Today, we're going to give away another one of these wonderful mugs sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Make sure you drop the hashtag, get your weight up in the comments to be able to secure your spot in that giveaway coming up. And then, you know, we are always doing new and wonderful things with the War Rapport. Specifically, we've got our great podcast that's coming up. This time, it's the Auburn Express, powered by the War Rapport, and something special coming for you all. We'll talk to the people and tell them what's going down.
Well, you know, it's been cooking for a while. It actually was by special request of the War Rapport community, y'all in the chat while we're on the shows, and I engage in my active hate of several individuals. It might be expanding soon, but you know what? Mike had kind of struck a nerve with the Bama fans, calling them bums during the basketball season. So those two things kind of married together. He said, you know what? Let's go ahead and call everybody we got to beef with bums. That is how B Will's bum list was birthed. I like that constance right there. The birth of B Will's bum list. And now the first episode will be live on pod today. As a matter of fact, it should be hitting your pod platform in about 2 minutes because I scheduled it to start like at 1:05. So be on the lookout for that. You're going to hear episode 1 is going to be, hey, everybody who said something suspect at SEC Media Days, I'm going to get on their case. But from there, we will drop some periodically over the course of the season when we have somebody who does something deserving of that ire. So it's live along with all of the other usual content on the Auburn Express. It is also exclusive to podcast, and it is sponsored by the War Rapport community's very own Jazzy Joe. He came through. He said, I want to be a part of what y'all do. What can I support? As soon as we started talking about the bum list, he said, hey, man, I want to be on board. Jazzy already knows it's up, it's coming, and he is as excited as everybody else to hear it. So y'all check it out.
Indeed. Guys, good to have Ike Jones and Mike back in the studio with us. Guys, y'all pretty busy last week with SEC Media Days in Atlanta. So just kind of want to hear from you guys. Me and B Will held it down last week while y'all were going doing the midweek report, but this was a first of many for the War Rapport, being at SEC Media Days, handling the coverage, getting great content, interviews. Share with us that experience, guys. How was it?
I mean, I had a good time, man. I enjoyed getting an opportunity to meet a lot of the other media members, and just being able to see the things that, so first of all, man, speaking as someone who's never been to any other media event, the SEC is first class, man. The way that they had things rolling out there, and it's apparent from people who have been to other media events that the SEC is doing it in a major way. So shout out to them for just putting on a good event. But it definitely was an eye-opening thing for me, just to kind of see the things that we need to be able to do to go out there and handle business. So I had a good time making connections, having an opportunity to talk to some players. We've got a couple of videos out there right now that are up on our channel from our conversations that we had with people who stopped by our booth on Radio Row. So good time, man. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience. I think that Media Days is living, breathing proof of why football matters more in the SEC versus the other conferences. It was a complete event, a lot of pomp and circumstance. And, we put last week on the pod, we had our Oklahoma guy, Big Game Boomer on, and he kind of noted that Big 12 Media Days had just passed. And I was like, did it? Did anything significant come out of Big 12 Media Days? Because I didn't even hear about it. And, they got brand new coach at Oklahoma. There are things to talk about in the Big 12 right now. And it just kind of came and went with no fanfare. So when people say they hate the "it just matters more" mantra in the SEC, I would point to Media Days. The amount of resources that they put in to allow, us and our other media peers to come and cover that event and get access to coaches and ask questions. The War Rapport is all over the place. I felt like Isaac and I needed to, I don't know, that thing Loki does when he splits his body off into like different people. Like we needed more bodies to just cover all the ground.
Yeah,
there was nuts.
In retrospect, I'm like, yeah, 2 people wasn't enough for us to do all the things we wanted to do. We definitely needed more people to be there. So yeah.
So next year, we'll work that out so that we can bring you guys even more coverage of Media Days. We were there all week. Harsin went on the last day, but Isaac and I went and we covered all week to get perspective, from the schools and coaches and the fan bases and their media that we'll be playing. So it was good. I enjoyed myself. I was exhausted by the end of the week. Obviously, I was told that in Birmingham, the Media Day setup is better than what we had in Atlanta, but it was fun being at the College Football Hall of Fame and chopping it up with everybody there.
Good deal. You guys were missed. Definitely appreciate a lot of the questions that were asked by you guys, especially. So good times. We're going to do it bigger and better next year for you guys. So be on the lookout for that. Let's talk about Brian Harsin. And last week we talked about it on the weekend tailgate, but me and Brian kind of gave our thoughts about what kind of showing that Brian Harsin will have. We figure that he'll put it to bed. The speculation about what happened with the inquiry and all that was going to be addressed at some point. But the way he went about it kind of spoke volumes. And so want to kind of do a recap of some of the things that Brian Harsin talked about. And we'll kind of get our opening thoughts with that. The first clip basically was his opening address when he came out. And he kind of came out firing, guys. Basically addressing, as he called, the gorilla in the room, I believe. Yeah. Let's take a look at that.
Excited to be here. And I know some of you out there looking at me didn't expect me to be here. all right, at this time. And I'm going to dive into that here in just a second and kind of address the gorilla in the room here. But there was an inquiry. It was uncomfortable. It was unfounded. And it presented an opportunity for people to, personally attack me, my family, and also our program. And it didn't work. So right now, our focus is on moving forward. And what came out of that inquiry were a lot of positive. There was a silver lining in all of this, because what I saw from our players and our coaches was leadership opportunities for them to step up, which is exactly what they did. And you got a chance to see guys provide leadership. You got a chance to see coaches provide leadership. And what it did, it was united our football team.
So that's a brief clip. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know, after how he addressed it, I don't know why people felt like they had to keep asking questions about this. It's almost like, you know how you don't have a plan B, so I'm just going to do plan A anyway, even though it's not a good plan anymore. That's what it seemed like a lot of people at media days did after Brian Harsin pretty much addressed it from every angle you could have possibly asked. But your thoughts on how Harsin came out, and I'll start with you, Mike. Your thoughts on how Harsin came out and just addressed this head on and talked about how it's prepared his team for the upcoming season.
Well, so to your first point, the questions, it's just like a really lazy, it's like a really lazy way to, I would say, how do I put it, man? It's just, I don't know. Like the drama is past, and if you couldn't come up with a more original question than something about some drama that happened literally like 6 months ago, I don't know what to say to that. I think it was a really cheap way to try to get a soundbite out of this coach. You're trying to get him to say something that will make a headline, and he just made it clear. Like, listen, I'm going to address this. I like how he didn't say elephant in the room. He said it's a gorilla. I think that was on purpose. And we're going to move on from this because our coaches have moved on. Right, our administration has moved on, and our players have moved on. Right, so he was clear. Yeah, some people were out to get me. It doesn't even matter who they are at this point. But they tried, they failed, it didn't work, and he was defiant. I thought he won media days with that opening statement.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And if you ask the question after he said that, you're the one that looks like a dumbass. So like, I mean, if you ask the question about that after that opening statement, you're the dum-dum. So let's be clear. If you watch that, and there were some questions, yes, I'm calling you out. You're a dum-dum because it was stupid. Now, the things that he had to say, like, again, in that statement, he talked about team unity and how it brought everybody together and it provided opportunities for leadership. We saw that on social media. We saw it on Twitter. We saw players speaking up and saying, hey, you want to know about this coach? Talk to the guys in the room. So the guys who chose to stay. We had players calling out the board of trustees, speaking up for their coach. And I think that his opening statement reflected that leadership. So the guys on this team are reflective of the leadership that this coach demonstrated in his opening statement at media days. I loved it. I think he set the tone early to make anybody who was going to bring that up look like a dum-dum. So A+ on the opening statement. We're grading the opening statement A+. Graduated with honors.
I want to ask Ike. I'm gonna get your thoughts in a minute, but Ike, something that stood out to me, and by the way, I definitely, is anyone selling It Didn't Work t-shirts? I know how Ike's brain works at this point a little bit better. I already know the ideas are turning. Lisa Wise, hashtag It Didn't Work.
Yeah, I loved it.
I love it as well. Ike. Something else that Coach Harsin said is that you attacked me, you attacked my family, but you also attacked Auburn. Mm-hmm. But obviously, if you're someone who thought this inquiry was necessary, obviously you don't see it that way, but you have to think about the ramifications from a national perspective from a local perspective as to how Auburn looks, this coaching staff looks, you had to have heard Auburn, right?
Right.
So your thoughts on how Harsin just addressed this from an overall perspective.
Yeah, it was difficult for me to not audibly say, "Oh," when he said it. I was like, "Yeah." He came out with the guns blazing. I like the fact that he attacked it head on. I mean, if it were me, that's what I would have done. I've just come straight out. Let's address it, and I don't want to talk anymore about it. It's been months. Let's move on. We've got other things we're going to talk about. Let's talk about the future, and that's exactly what he did. I like that he said it very confidently, definitively. He's like, okay, let's get to it. Let's talk about it. Great. I've said it. You have my soundbite about it, how I feel. Anything else, Google's your friend. And I was like, yeah,
all right.
Please let it be known that this is not something we're going to sit and talk about over and over and over again. But that's, one of the things I said when we were previewing it is like, this was going to be people's opportunity to ask him that question. And he got ahead of it. Now I do, I do wonder if anybody tried to come around the side door, because he did do some things on Media Row with some people. I wonder if anybody, who wasn't, because let's be clear, not everyone who was media was down in the main press room. So some people had, they were plugged in and listening, but some people stayed at their Media Row table. So they might not have heard him say, "Hey, don't ask me about this." So I'm just wondering if maybe some of those other folks got into it on their shows, or if they were respectful of his stuff, unlike others that were there, and just said, okay, he said, I don't want to hear about it, or I don't want to talk about it, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But I loved it, man. I loved what he said, how he said it. And the fact that he, even when folks tried to kind of circle back through and mention it again, he didn't even address it in his response. He was just like, I already told you I'm not talking about this. So why are we having this conversation right now? So
yeah.
Before we get into the second clip that we want to review, with Brian Harsin, B-Will, we talked about how he was going to do exactly this. He was going to address it. But Harsin, real brief, real quick, just kind of talk about how he handled it. Harsin looked incredibly comfortable for a coach to have been through what he'd been through. Are you surprised at just how relaxed he was given what he had to address?
Not at all. Because his demeanor since all of that took place has been fairly consistent. He knew he needed to be more accessible, more personable, even while doing things that are completely within his personality, which is letting you know straight up what it's going to be and not going to be. He just needed to be a more friendly version of himself visually while doing that. And he did both. So maybe, if he had to address something hard 9 months ago, it would have been a very stern, scrunched face, and he would have said some of the same things. But his demeanor is what has changed. And that's what helps sell the idea that I don't care about this stuff. And it worked. It's exactly what we thought he would do when we talked about it on Wednesday, and he did it, and it worked.
Indeed. Let's get into the second clip. And this kind of deals with another great question that Mike G asked about recruiting, because that's been a hot topic in the offseason. Auburn is not where a lot of people feel it should be in terms of the number of recruits or guys committed to Auburn at this point. But Mike G kind of addressed that at Media Days. And here's a clip of what Harsin had to say.
Coach Michael Gittins, War Rapport, Auburn. Going into year two, recruits may have questions about the identity of Auburn football. You guys have got some work to do on the field this upcoming season. What is the messaging to recruits about why choose Auburn at this point, and how are you guys internally addressing some of the negative recruiting that might be happening this offseason?
Well, I think the message is watch. But we got to go out there and we got to play. I mean, that's the beauty of what we get a chance to do every Saturday, all right? When you get into the arena, you have the opportunity to go out there and settle the score, all right? You have a chance to compete. We've told our recruits, watch. And I think the ones that have been on our campus, they see the energy and the vibe and what's happening and how the players are responding and coaches are connecting and everything that we're doing. I mean, there's a great energy in our program right now. There's alignment in our program right now. And I know those recruits and families, they feel that when they step on campus. Now we got to put a product on the field that players want to be a part of.
And that's pretty much has been a big reason why at the War Rapport collectively, while there's nothing wrong with having a concern, we have not panicked because we understood that it's all about the product placed on the field. But B Will, talk to me, man. What your thoughts about what Harsin just said there?
I mean, he's right. We have been talking for weeks about how any lack of momentum is entirely because recruits can't see what Harsin is selling. Any recruits that have bought in so far, either they have bought what he's selling, or they already see a path for them personally with the position group that they play in success and how it translates to the next level. One or two. Either the only success you can see here is maybe running back room, defensive line, or defensive back, maybe. Other than that, you are buying an idea and a plan. And maybe you see some of that plan by being on campus, by watching them practice, by walking through the facility or the new facility that's about to open. Maybe they can show some of that on campus. But as far as what your role is going to be in projecting success at the majority of positions on offense, everything is a complete sale job. It is not tangible yet. So he knows that he has to produce something tangible for recruits to latch on to. That is the job. He does that. Recruiting gets easier. And we start seeing the type of momentum in recruiting that everybody thinks we should be having at this point in the cycle. Again, I am not convinced at this point in the cycle it's imperative to see the type of numbers that everybody else would like to see, that Georgia is going to be putting up. We didn't just win a national championship, guys. So maybe it makes more sense for defensive recruits to be piling up at somewhere where they produce the best defense ever and win a national championship. We understand that. That's the spoils of winning. That's what happens when you win something really big, is guys get on board. So we have to do our winning, and then it gets easier to recruit. So it's just a matter of time. So much is riding on this, not only his success going forward as the coach, but what he can show is going to get him better recruits if it's good. And that's going to lean further into our success and accelerate the process of building this back up.
Mike, either you can jump in here. How important is it? Let's say Auburn gets off to the start that it needs in the season. Let's say Auburn is going into Georgia 5-0. And let's say that Auburn is looking good in the process. Naturally speaking, when Auburn is doing well, there's going to be a lot of excitement around what's happening at Auburn. But it almost seems like this year, especially, how we react as a fan base to what's happening needs to be largely positive, just for the support and the image of what this program needs at this point to recruits. Is that a fair statement? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say. I think the biggest thing that we need to be cognizant of as fans is not, like, even if you're frustrated with the coach, don't attack the players, right? Because the players are the ones that will be talking amongst one another about how the fan base treats you, right? One of the biggest selling point of Auburn is the fans, is the experience, is, you know, we've talked about it before. If you haven't seen the Keontae Scott interview, go watch that, and him talking about what was the moment that made him say, yeah, Auburn's the place I want to be, was being at the Iron Bowl. And I've said this before, we lost that game. Mm-hmm. We didn't win the game, but he loved the experience of being in that atmosphere with fans that were passionately cheering on a team that ultimately didn't win the game. But just being there, watching that, sold him on, yeah, Auburn, I've got to come play in this place, right? So it's just important that fans realize that, yeah, you do have some stake in this, right? Passionately cheer on your team. And because it matters to you, I understand you're going to be frustrated, but just let your frustrations be measured, right? Like, we can't dip into the, you know, the death threat place of some of the other fan bases. And we definitely can't dip into the throwing things on the field place of some of the other fan bases. We've got to just make sure that we're keeping our wits about us, and letting our passion only speak positive things for our, and again, that doesn't mean you can't be honest and say, hey man, we're not very good, right? Or that wasn't very good, because we're always going to be honest on this show. But I do think that it matters from the standpoint of, you want to make sure that you're not a fair weather fan.
Right.
Regardless of what happens, regardless of the outcome, you love Auburn and you love this team, and you'll cheer them on.
Mike G, before we get to the next clip, Harsin was oozing with a lot of confidence in his response to you. It was almost like, watch, just watch what we put on the field. And it's almost like he knows something everyone else doesn't appear to know at this point. What was going through your mind when you heard that type of response coming from Harsin after you asked that question?
Honestly, that we at the War Rapport know what the hell we're talking about. If you have been listening to us for the last few months, he literally got up there and echoed points we've been saying about recruiting for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. That's going to come down to the product that they put on the field, because this is year 2 for this coach. Year 1 didn't go as planned, and recruits are just in wait and see mode. If you're interested, if you've got Auburn in your top 4 right now, top 3 or 4, we're probably at the bottom, because the schools that we're competing against have coaches that are not in their second year.
Right.
They also have coaches that have had a relationship with those recruits 1 to 2 years longer than this coach. And everybody's complaining that he can't come in and magically establish a better relationship with recruits in a short amount of time, after these guys have been out here recruiting these kids since their freshman and sophomore years. Wait and see. We've got to put a product on the field that people can see. Now, he's like, listen, man, I mean, he's in there. He's in the building. He's in the building. He sees the progress that they're making. The players are confident. He's confident. And I think that, and he oozes confidence when you're talking to him, because I think he's relishing this underdog role. But for recruiting, it just comes down to, you got to do something on the field. And if you can go out there, and you don't have to win the West either. But the second part of that question was about negative recruiting. It's happening. They've confirmed that it's happening. I'm souring on Nick Eason. Listen, the things that he's saying, they're in bounds, they're fair, but screw that guy.
I mean, he's doing his job.
Yeah, he's doing his job. I don't have to like it though. Like, screw it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And he's out here and he's saying, listen, if you commit, I left. Why would you go there? Because you don't even know if that guy's going to be there in a year.
Right.
But that tracks back to results on the field. If he goes out there and he wins 8 games, you can take that negative recruiting tool out of the hands of the coaches that are coaching against him and say, listen, they're trending up.
Nick Eason has to come up with something better now.
Correct.
It's low. What he's doing is low-hanging fruit against Auburn. Look at what they did. Look at what happened. Do you really feel safe going to that school?
And then the original message from the last clip about how all that noise, it didn't work, has even more strength. So when you go in and somebody brings that up on a recruiting trip, you could be like, listen, I addressed that mess last year. We went out and we got 2-3 games better this year. Now you should come be a part of the 9 to 10 win season we're going to do the year after that.
Right.
Or the year after that, we're going to be competing for the West. So you just have to put a product on the field that shows that you are trending the right direction. Right. Lots of first-year SEC head coaches had way worse years than Brian Harsin had in year 1. Yep. Sam Pittman went 3-7 with no impressive wins on his schedule. And I'm just thinking, like, I don't know where. I think in his mind, I get it. A lot of recruits are buying that negativity, man. Go out there and show them why it's crap. I think he really echoed the points that we have been making about why fans should calm down. Everybody's worried about NIL. We're not throwing enough dollars at recruits. Man, listen, NIL matters. It's a factor, but it's still going to come down to play on the field. NIL is the icing on the cake. And sure, there will be some kids who are making the decision solely based on money, but the majority of them still want to go to a program that is showing that they can develop kids. That's what he's got to put on the field next year. Put Tank in the first round next year and watch the running backs come and flow in. Yeah. Let Derek Hall go out there and he set records for sacks, and watch the defensive recruits come in. So, we'll talk about it later, but there were some guys that made all SEC, got voted all SEC, finish all SEC with guys who nobody was expecting, and show that development and that improvement, and the recruiting will start to come around.
Agreed. Well said. Well said. We'll get to some of the other clips. We're kind of at the halfway point through this first hour. But guys, do us a favor. All right. We need you guys to share this video. Drop the hashtag. Also, if you're not commenting, the least you can do is smash that like button, guys. And if you just so happen to find our channel, hit subscribe. We definitely appreciate you guys supporting and watching along with us as we talk some ball. Let's take time to acknowledge the sponsors of the War Report.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com. Yep. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and thank you to everyone who continues to support the War Report in whatever way you do. But if you want to come on board with us, man, we are coming up on the season quickly, and this is the time where you have to have a membership to the War Report, because there are so many things that are going to be happening just for you as members, including ticket giveaways, post-game chats that are going to be member only. And then we do film reviews that are going to be patron only. You have to be a member of the War Report to take advantage of some of this stuff. But for right now, we've got things like interviews with players. Damari Austin sat down and talked with us a little bit about his journey thus far with the War Report. Here's a little bit of that.
Asking you a little bit about why you chose Auburn.
The reason I fell in love with Auburn is really just because, like, the family atmosphere.
During your recruiting process, which recruiter would you say was the most influential in you choosing Auburn?
So Coach Cadillac was my main recruiter, so I would probably say it was him, and definitely Coach Harsin.
On campus, getting it in for workouts already. Tell us a little bit about how it's been so far.
It's basically just like getting around campus, knowing campus itself. Definitely coming from a high school. My high school is pretty big, but college campus is like 10 times bigger.
I've seen the videos of you and Tank working out together. What's it like getting out there with Tank and getting after it?
They've been pretty good. I think I had like 1 or 2 workouts with Tank.
We've asked your teammates about who the fastest guy on the team is. You just got there, so you're welcome to chime in on that.
We all fast. Don't get me wrong. We all fast.
Okay.
But I really think it's Jarquez.
Oh.
You know what? I can believe that.
I can believe that.
Quez looked like he could just go.
What? When I'm telling you, this is the strongest and fastest, like, country kid I've ever seen.
They said he was squatting like 650 the other day, bro.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, man. He's hard.
Absolutely great conversation with that young man. Make sure you all go and check out that conversation. If you are a member of the War Report, you will have that available to you tomorrow. Running back Damari Austin. Already up is Shed Jackson. That is going to be dropping live for everybody this coming Thursday. So make sure that you go and check out. This week, as always, we're giving away something here. We are giving away a mug courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Make sure you hashtag get your weight up in the comments to be able to enter that drawing. We'll be giving that away here in about 25 minutes. You have to be present to win. So if you put your hashtag in and then you go away because your house is burning down, then you're going to be twice as sad, because I just don't know what to do for you. We can't run it back for you. I apologize about whatever happened with your house, and you will not have a mug. So, Saturdays are in addition to all of that stuff, man, if you are nervous about what is going on right now with Auburn's future or recruiting or whatever you've heard over media days, Or maybe you're even upset at the prediction of Auburn being last in the West, which we will get to in just a minute. Our guys at the Rogue Shop have a little something that maybe can help you keep your nerves calm and help you sleep at night. So we'll just holler at them real quick and get back into the show.
This episode of the War Rapport is brought to you in part by Rogue Shop. Looking to reduce stress or improve your quality of sleep? Rogue Shop has you covered with a wide range of premium products, including gummies, bath salts, and oils. Go to rogueshop.com and use code RAPPORT when you check out. That way, they know we sent you. All right?
Shouts out to Rogue Shop for definitely being a sponsor, friend of the show. Absolutely. Let's get back into it, guys. You all are asking some great questions, some comments. We do it a little different because we have a lot to talk about with Media Day. So we're going to tackle some of these questions and comments really quickly, and we'll get back into it. James Barnett, appreciate you watching with us. Great question here. He says, fellas, after being at SEC Media Days, do you have a different outlook on our team and how far they can go? Guys, feel free to jump in on this one.
No, not really. It just confirmed a lot of stuff for me while we were there. What I hope is that other people have a different outlook on the team. Cover
looking
it.
at the media predictions. I don't know how much it changed their minds.
Right.
Yeah.
But to Mike's point, I mean, I was already thinking we were going to be higher than what our predicted outcome was going to be. I'm still in that space. This is the thing, and I don't know if if I've said this on the show. The thing that fans or we that cover a team so closely have to be wary of is understanding what improvement in the vacuum is, right? Like, just because we are sure Auburn is out there working their tail off and getting better doesn't mean that other teams aren't in their facilities doing the exact same thing and feeling really hopeful about their seasons and feeling like they're going to go out there and shock the world. I mean, shoot, freaking Vandy coach talks about competing for championships, and I'm just like, where did that confidence come from? But you're going to be confident in your squad. The thing that I do know for sure is, or what I'm not looking past that other people are, which leaves me in the same place of having the same cautious optimism, is I saw how close we were in scenarios last year. So even if those other teams improve, they would have to exponentially improve to get past us. We just clean up a few mistakes, not even really get better, clean up a few mistakes, and we have a few more W's on the schedule already. Right. So I'm pretty much in the same place I was before. We haven't put out any concrete, this is where we're going to be this season stuff as a channel yet, but I feel good about where we are as a team.
Indeed. Bird Eye, Wonder Amigo 5 says, what about Tank's statements on players leaving? Did you guys happen to catch that?
Yeah. He pretty much, his statement was, and I think it was at one of the side, I don't actually remember which one of it was, is that we had some cancers that had to be removed from the team. And listen, again, what happened at Media Days is just confirmation of things that we've been hearing at the War Rapport for months.
Yeah.
And we've been telling you guys for months. So, listen, Mike said it earlier, and I just have to reiterate. We don't get on here and make up rumors. If I get on here and say it on a microphone about what I've heard, that's not a rumor. Now, just because I don't say this person said it and so you can go, trust me, if I say it on this microphone where you can go back and play it again, and I'm not saying here's what I think might happen, right? Like, if it's not a prediction, but I'm telling you we've heard, trust me, it's credible.
Yeah.
Because and Mike and I had this conversation. People are on here telling me I was spreading rumors when I said I think Bo Nix is considering transferring. And they jump in our comment section and they're like, why would you say something like that? He's an Auburn man. And I'm like,
oh, never leave Auburn.
I'm just
buried at Haley Center.
I have very good sources that say he's considering leaving the team. I don't know what else to tell you to say. The consideration is in his brain. And then you walk that back or you go forward a few more months and he's no longer on the team. Those people don't come back to say, you know what, Ike, you were right, man. My bad.
Hey, we should go through the YouTube comments.
I saw one guy.
One guy, yeah. We should go back to the YouTube comments. It'll be like 6 months old. No, it'll be older than that because it was like in November.
Right.
And say, hey, how about that? You want to pick this back up?
But I'm saying, like, a lot of this stuff happens in back channels, and like people were getting on Mike G when he said, "Yeah, I don't think Caleb Williams is coming to Auburn, man. Everything that I've heard is said it's not going to happen." And like, what does Mike know? It's like a hell of a lot, apparently.
Yeah, listen, that Caleb Williams thing was funny. It was a whole. I won't name the message board, but it was a whole thread on a message board. Mike G from the highly regarded Mike G from the War Rapport said Caleb Williams isn't coming, guys, so let's hang it up. And then a bunch of folks started calling me racist because Caleb Williams was too light-skinned.
I'm just like, where y'all? Why? What is the motivation that we would have to give you false information? Like, it does nothing for our credibility.
And and to be clear, I didn't go on a long rant about it. There was some dude on Twitter running around saying that Caleb Williams was an 80% lock to Auburn. He wasn't an Auburn insider, and that crap got like 800 retweets or something like that because it was hot news at the time. And I was like, I don't know, man. We're pretty plugged in, and this is highly unlikely. I think this is highly unlikely. Now, if you go back and try to find his Twitter account, it does not exist. It literally does not exist. I went back to go try to get the screenshots, and I was like, "Oh, this dude is going. He's going." And after he committed to USC, I came back and I was like, "Do you care to explain the other 20%?" And that's the problem with what people say on social media is they'll put something out
How
there,
do you even
but then when it doesn't,
that?
yeah. But see, again, if you think that Caleb Williams is an 80% lock to Auburn and your source is credible, you know what the 20% is that will keep him from coming.
Right.
So come back and explain it because you didn't put that out there. So to Ike's point, I'm just saying if we're saying it on camera, we've already kind of looked.
It's not like a facts or not segment where we're making guesses about what might happen. Like if I get on here and I say, guys, we're hearing reports that a lot of the people who you're seeing leave the program via the transfer portal may have been asked to leave because they didn't have a place at Auburn anymore. If we get on camera and say, yeah, you know what? I've heard Bo Nix might be considering transferring from Auburn next year. It's because I actually heard someone close enough to Bo Nix and his camp say this is a very heavy pot. Like I just wouldn't get on camera and say stuff that I don't have actual sources for. And we've said this to you guys over and over and over again. If we're going to go and our credibility matters to us. Right. And we know more than we say. But if I say it, you know for sure I heard that from a really good source.
Look, listen, during the Harsin drama earlier this year, there was this one particular goofy running around every message board saying that Hugh Freeze was going to be the next coach.
Right.
It was all but a done deal, and they were just waiting on board approval. These were weird specifics that I was like,
Like literally, like today could be the day that.
Yeah.
And I was like,
what?
I haven't heard any of this. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So if that's happening, I mean, to know that your source would have to be at like the highest levels of decision making in the process.
Yeah.
In which case, you should be right about stuff all the time. But again, if that is actual information that you have, you're not going to be able to come out and say who told you that.
Right.
Which is why we don't do that most of the time. I mean, if it's information worth having or that's actually true, most of the time you can't quote the source. They're not going to give you permission to put them out there like that.
Right.
So if you hear us saying it, you just assume that it was like,
but again, I'm really particular about saying what I know and what I'm just making a guess about.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm just saying, like, just if we haven't earned credibility from you who are watching this video right now yet, then I don't know what else we got to do.
You just haven't been watching us long enough, right?
Or you're picking and choosing which portions of what I'm saying you want to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I that was my to cap this again. Our biggest takeaway from media days was that, a lot of the things that we have been, our talking points have been accurate. They've been on point. And so if they weren't, then I'd be talking to you about that right now. Hey, listen, we thought this, but we came away from media days with a different takeaway after sitting down with coaches and talking to SEC people. And I don't know, man, it was eye-opening. I'm very happy that we spent the week there immersed in that process.
Well, let's talk about Hilliard. Harsin was asked about Hilliard and gave some comments about him. Let's take a quick look at that and then come back and talk about it.
I wanted to ask you, you talked about your staff and retooling it. Landon King, a guy you converted from tight end, has said some very special things about Ike Hilliard. We saw what he did at Florida as a player and in the NFL. What kind of impact has he had on those guys so far, and what do you anticipate from him on your staff?
Ike is one of those individuals that when he walks into a room, there's a presence about him, and you know he knows what he's talking about. And I think the first day he was in that room with those wide receivers, he told them that he loved them, and he was there to help them get better. When he spoke to our team, we did this exercise with every one of our coaches where they got a chance to get up in front of the team and talk about leadership. And Ike's been there. He's done it. Everything those guys want to do, he's been a part of it. And before he began his talk on leadership and what he thought that is and how he was going to explain that to our guys, he told our guys, look, hey, I'm here for you. And if there's any questions you have or anything you want to know, just come by and see me.
B. Will, I'll go to you. Thoughts on Harsin's comments about Hilliard?
On Wednesday, when it was just you and me, and Mike and Ike were on the ground, we said, well, I expect him to bury this offseason nonsense, and I expect him to instead point to the future by pointing to the hires he has made that makes Auburn an attractive place. This falls right into what I expected him to do. You want to ask about Ike Hilliard? Whoever asked, first of all, thank you for asking another relevant question. But pointing to an NFL professional who played in the NFL, coached in the NFL, therefore has developed NFL talent and knows what it takes to play there, there is nothing more valuable than that. Almost everything you do as a head coach is recruiting material, whether you like it or not, whether it's good or bad. That interaction you had at the restaurant when you was Tuesday night, you left the facility, but you were in a bad mood, so you just grabbed your bag and somebody said War Eagle, but you just stared at them sideways. That's negative recruiting. Somebody could use. It's also positive recruiting when you take a minute to drive somebody from point A to point B because they missed their bus and then they take a picture with you. That's positive recruiting as well. Everything you do as a head coach is under the microscope, especially at SEC Media Days. He was recruiting with Ike Hilliard's resume, which is exactly what you do as a head coach when you talk about the hire that you made. Yes, Ike Hilliard deserves everything every accolade that you could pour on him. He deserves it because he did it. But you made the decision as head coach to bring in an NFL professional to develop your wide receivers and recruit your wide receivers. That is to your credit. So you pat yourself on the back, not directly, indirectly by big up at Ike Hilliard. That's why you do it. That's why you brought him in. And that's why you're on the podium at Media Days, letting everybody else know who you have on your staff coaching your wide receivers. This is exactly what I wanted to hear from him because it's one of the few areas where he can say, I checked that box for you. Go look at it. On-field offense, quarterback production, wide receiver production, not so much. What I can tell you, though, look who we got on the staff. Look who's going to be talking to you every day. Go check his resume, and that's powerful. So I'm glad he did that.
Mike, do y'all want to jump in on here before we move on to the next clip?
Yeah, not a lot to say about Ike Hilliard. Listen, he went out and this was a slam dunk hire. Yeah. I mean, he knocked it out of the park with this one. The players love him. They're talking, and for a group that was much maligned last year and in desperate need of leadership, apparently, this was great, man. They went out and they got a guy who's coached some, really good wide receivers at the NFL level. He's played in the SEC. He played in a fun and gun offense. I mean, he was a star wide receiver in the SEC in the late 90s, playing under Steve Spurrier. Mm-hmm. So they needed, I mean, with some of the offseason drama with Austin Davis, and they needed to go out and get a guy like this. And receiver play down the field is going to be a thing. I think that group is completely underrated right now. There's a ton of talent in there. We brought some talent in. We have a building report coming with one of those guys that you guys are going to hear from. And they've got lofty goals this season in terms of receiver play. And Ike Hilliard is going to play a huge role in that. So I'm glad that Harsin got a chance to address that at Media Days.
Yeah, let's get into the last clip. And it was a question about defense. we've had some transition and some turnover with our coordinators. And Mike G, you asked this question specifically about Schmedding and anything he's going to be doing differently than what Mason did the prior season. Let's get into that and let's look at what Harsin had to say on that.
Michael Giddens, War Rapport, Auburn. Coach, Derek Mason ran a lot of zone concepts on defense last year. With Jeff Schmedding taking over, what is this year's defensive identity going to look like? And second part, Vegas set the over-under for Auburn at 5.5 games initially, speculating that you are going to be an underdog to a lot of teams that you beat last year. What is the feeling internally about that and the message to the team?
Thank you for actually asking me a football question. All right, I do appreciate that. So scheme-wise, yeah, I mean, it really comes down to personnel. We'll play more man coverage. There'll be more man, and we did last year too. It wasn't zone. We did those things, and a lot of it comes back to your personnel, how well we did it. All right, you got to go back and improve in some of those areas. But Coach Schmedding, whatever he has planned for our defense, it'll be a combination of all those things. Here's what I know, all right, as far as the records or whatever. We don't play the media, all right, we don't. And so nobody's been in our walls and has seen what our guys are doing on a day-to-day basis. Nobody's been there at 6 a.m. watching those guys run decks on Friday morning. And so you have no idea. I do. I get to see them every day.
You for asking a football question. You know what a difference a matter of months makes.
Yeah, listen,
I used to hate your voice.
For the record, I have always asked him football questions. I've never not asked Brian Harsin a football question. But there were a lot of dum-dums asking non-football questions or just irrelevant questions. And defense is going to be one. I think this is a concern. Now, the defense showed flashes of greatness last year. And the Iron Bowl really threw a lot of people off. Like, where was this all year? We were attacking. Right. And I kind of said, people asked me, do you think that Schmedding called the Iron Bowl? I said, no. I think if you watched Alabama last season, the plan was always going to be to blitz the hell out of them. I rewatched last night. I rewatched A&M versus Bama. They did the same thing. They got to Bryce Young like 5 times. I mean, they got after him because that line was not great. So, he kind of dispelled the idea that we sat back in zone a little too much, and I don't think he wanted to throw Derek Mason under the bus, but
right.
The point was, what is this? Is this going to look different with Jeff Schmedding at the helm than it did with Derek Mason at the helm? I think the answer is resoundingly yes. Absolutely. I doubt that he runs the same concepts that Mason ran. But what people really want to know is this defense going to play better? Is it going to play better under Schmedding than it did under Mason? This is your guy. This is the guy that followed you from Boise. Tell us. You should know. You should already have the answer to this because he's coached under you for so many years. I liked his answer to this question. I think the defense, they have a really solid base moving forward for the next few years. It's not like on offense where we're worried about what are we going to do with the offensive line after this year. And, we got all these questions about the future on offense. On defense, there's a solid pipeline of players that can step up and step in and keep really good defense going. So, a lot has been made of the offense, and not a lot of people are asking about what we're going to do defensively. And that might be the most important component of this team, not losing 7 games next year. As defense, improve on offense slightly, but the defense needs to, if they improve as well, we should get 7 to 8 if we improve. The idea behind these predictions of last in the West is that our team is worse than last year. So when people are asking about defense, they want to know, hey, are we going to be worse or are we going to be better this year on defense?
Yeah.
I liked his answer. I just thought, hey, listen, you're welcome for the football question. I'll have more of them for you after the games this season.
He may not be happy to hear some of your questions in the upcoming season, depending on how some games go.
As long as they're fair, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, right. Listen, I mean, it'll be a little bit harder for him because I feel like before I was that guy, like, we were those guys on the post-game presses because I did a few of them too. And now we're the War Rapport.
Right.
Now it's like, you get mad at first and be like, okay, but these guys know what they're talking about. So let me answer the question.
Yeah, and listen, Derek Hall said it when I sat down and talked with him. He was like, if you're shutting teams out, then that's, their mindset is what Mike G was predicting last year. They want to pitch shutouts this coming season. He said it himself. This isn't Ike making stuff up. Derek Hall said it out of his own mouth. You can go watch the interview. They want to pitch shutouts.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't really care what anybody else is doing. Their mindset is, we don't want you to score.
Fair
Right.
enough.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, this coach gets it, man. I root for Auburn, but I'll tell you what, I'm a Brian Harsin fan, and I hope the circumstances allow him a couple more years to show what his system actually will look like when he's got a full head of recruits in and he's established. And that was one of my takeaways from his answer was just, hey man, once he gets going, what's this going to look like? And I hope that he gets that chance. I think that it would be not only a disservice to him, but to Auburn if he doesn't get that chance. Now he knows he's realistic. I know this is our last clip, but the totality of all this, and he understands this, is that we have to go out and we have to win games.
Yeah.
We have to win games on Saturdays to keep this headed the right direction. We need another top 10 win this season. We need that defense to take the next step forward. We need Derek Hall to set records for sacks this season. Now he said he told Ike he's going to go out and get it.
Yeah. Now,
you know what he told you? He told you
it wasn't on camera, but yeah, when we were talking afterwards, I was just asking him some questions about the sack totals, and he was like, "Listen, man, he said that I'm hoping to set the single season record this year." He said he could have gotten it last year, but he missed a couple of sacks. He's like, "I'm not going to let them. I'm not going to miss those this year." And I said, "I'm rooting for you to do it. Let's see it,
big man."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, listen.
Wait till you hear the interview Mike and I just did yesterday about the other side of the coin on offense. What that young man said.
Yeah, I can't wait to put that out.
I'm not going to say nothing. Just know.
Oh man,
when we put that one out.
Spoiler alert. There were some things said that will definitely become bulletin board material. No matter what happens.
He stood on it. I was like, hey.
I was like, hey, listen. I mean, it's I can't spoil it, but Isaac and I were like,
I said, okay. Talk to spicy young man. I'm not mad.
It's going to be interesting to see. I like it that we brought in some dogs, man. Listen, some of these guys that have come in from the portal could be game changers here, and I'm not. Again, I'm struggling here, Isaac, but.
Man. Listen, when we drop it, you'll know.
Yeah, right. I'm just telling you, I get the pessimism about what people haven't seen because you just haven't seen it yet. Right. But that's why we exist, to bring you what you haven't seen before you see it. So you could be like, you know what? I watched the War Rapport and they said ... So I'll leave that there.
And Lawrence, appreciate you hanging out with us, man. He says the fact that we're even having hot seat talk about Brian Harsin makes me mad. He says we'll never get a good coach if we're always firing people.
Yeah, man. I just don't even understand the sentiment of. There's a guy on Twitter. I don't like making people famous. He's already got enough following. I'm not making him famous, but anyway, he said that February would have nothing to do with his evaluation as to why Brian Harsin should be in the hot seat this season. And I was like, in year 2, I would hate to be a coach under you if you were my freaking AD talking about year 2, I'm on the hot seat because of performance. Are we being serious?
Right.
So I don't understand those sentiments, man. Like, if anything, February gives him more leash than it makes it. I'm like, man, y'all.
That's what
crazy,
I would say, because that right now, people like Mike already talked about it. They're going to be like, hey, man, that dude's not even going to be there in a year.
Right.
Y'all just made it hard for me to do the job that I'm actually here to do. How is that not part of the assessment of what type of job I've done?
Right,
yeah, we
right.
hired you, we gave you an office, but we made sure you didn't have a laptop like everybody else. But still, why not get that email? I don't have a laptop. What do you mean why you don't have an email? That's
Right.
stupid. Why don't you
Right.
enable me to do my job completely and without tethers, and then see the type of job I do? So I would be, I mean, the contracts are the contracts. He's going to get the 5 years unless they want to pay some of it early. But it's realistically, every year that goes by, if somebody who didn't want Brian Harsin there still doesn't want him there, they want him to be towing the line or doing worse than towing the line. So they have an excuse to fire him because every year he gets cheaper to fire.
Right.
He has to make it. Go ahead.
And to what Harsin says, you're only hurting Auburn when you do that.
Yeah, that's it.
You're only hurting. You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're hurting Auburn in the process.
Wait. Okay. So we got B-Will's bums, but we're gonna have Mike G's dum dums. Yeah, I'm not going to make a special segment about it, but it's going to come up spontaneously. There's a dude on Twitter right now echoing his name. I hate that we share a first name, but he's on this. He's pushing the hot seat talk. This dude is clickbait central. So if you don't know who I'm talking about, I'm with Ike. I don't like giving these people air. But the hot seat talk is just like I get it. Technically, he is kind of on the hot seat because of the things that happened this offseason, but it should not have been because of the results of last season.
Right.
That's what I want to make clear. Right. The hot seat was generated. Right. He didn't earn a hot seat last year.
And
guys, he did
my
not earn a
entire
hot
point.
seat. He didn't earn a hot seat.
You can't tell me one season's product earns you a
hot seat where you made a bowl game. You know, you finished 500 on the season before the bowl game.
When your starting quarterback gets hurt in the middle of one of your games and you have to finish with a guy who, now we can debate whether or not TJ was ready to play, but what's not debatable is the product on the field was a direct correlation, or I should say, let me say specifically, how plays were being called was not all on Brian Harsin. And he was like, you know what? You and I don't have the same philosophy with how we're doing things.
Yeah.
Let's rectify this situation right now.
Right.
So if Harsin is on the hot seat, you got to be kidding me, man. I just don't even understand that, bro.
It's dumb. It's dumb. And you know what? It's the whole, Gus would have gotten eight games and he did worse than Gus. So you're okay with him doing worse than Gus? And I'm like, it's year one of a system change. There's going to be pain involved. Now, some of that pain is taking a small step back to, all the things that inevitably arise when you're changing systems. I keep saying this. The last time we tried to change systems was 2012. When we tried to go from what Gus was doing to a pro-style offense. Who was the guy we hired that year, that Jazzy hired that year? Oh, guys, so forgettable. Whoever the offensive coordinator, they try to run a pro-style offense.
Someone's gonna.
Somebody help me out. Who was the O coordinator that they hired?
I can't think of his name right now.
Not Dillingham. It was
Scott Loeffler.
Loeffler. Yeah.
Loeffler.
That was a whole ass disaster.
Yeah, that was
3-9 was the result. But a lot of teams go out and flop that hard on record. Now, who's to say if we didn't commit to that change, if we were willing to stomach that pain and give that guy 3 years to build a pro-style system, because there are so many things that we talk about on this show, like, offensive line. The offensive line for Gus's system is built very different from what Harsin wants to do.
Right.
They had to beat those guys up. One offseason is not enough time to do it. In year two, you might see drastic changes in strength and conditioning. So in the run game, where, again, pass blocking, feet, technique, you need strength, right? But run blocking is about just moving the dude in front of you.
Right.
If you don't have the strength to do that, your run game suffers. The whole offense suffered because, now we're passing more than we have to. And we can't slow. We can't play ball control. Year 2 could be. I mean, these guys could go out and shock the world in year 2. But it's not. You shouldn't be shocked because we saw Arkansas go 3-7 in Pittman's first year, and then 9-3 the next year.
Right.
It shouldn't be that shocking.
It's a very similar type of turnaround, and when you're talking about culture and what he's trying to implement with his team, specifically in the trenches on those teams.
Yeah.
He just had to turn the roster over, and he had to get them in his program for an additional year, and then it paid dividends the next year.
Right.
People are predicting Arkansas to possibly be the sleeper to win the West this year.
They could very easily go backwards from last year's record. Because right. Just go ahead and put him whatever part of that be on the next B Wills bums. Like they're going. I mean, it's more likely that they'll move backwards in the West from 9-3 than they'll take the next step forward. That's just our league. Every team in the West made a bowl game. That's why the 4-8 predictions, I can't get with that. Right. I cannot get with that. To say that we're not going to be at least a 6-win team is completely ridiculous to me. Our worst season in God knows how long, and we still made a bowl game. Why does everybody think that the roof is falling?
The optics. It's clearly the optics. Speaking of Mike G's dum-dums, and not the person actually making this post, because they're a friend of the show and we love them dearly. Jazzy Joe says, did y'all see Joseph Goodman ask Harsin about the mess at the beginning of the season after he clearly said he was done talking about it? Shake my head.
Let me replay that for you. Harsin gets up to the podium and says, I'm going to address this, and this is going to be the last time. And then the first thing out of his mouth is, I want to talk about the off-season stuff. What did you learn from that? Well, if I were Harsin, what I've learned is that you're going to ask the same damn question after I just addressed it. That's it. I've learned that you don't listen. That's what I learned. I learned that you don't listen, Joseph.
He's a Ferengi.
Now, what's even more puzzling is it's not that he didn't hear it, because if you go to his Twitter, he tweeted what Harsin said and said, I like it. But then you still ask the question. And I'm just like,
he told you what he learned. Like everything was in the response. Everything.
But it's almost as if, to Mike's point, he came there with one question in mind that he was going to ask and still raised this, because it's not as if you don't have to ask it. Here's the thing. Here's a wonderful takeaway for anybody that I learned from media days. If you don't have a good question to ask, you don't raise your hand, and they don't bring you a mic. It's a super simple thing. Other people ask questions, and then you can use the responses you heard from their questions to formulate your own opinions about, and you can write about those things. Mm-hmm. But if you're just hell-bent on asking a question, at least make it a good one.
Yeah, or or innovate or something. It's lazy journalism. I'll say it. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to tell you that's lazy journalism. That is, I said it earlier in the show, that is you fishing for a hot take, hoping maybe he flies off the handle at you even, because he just told you, I'm not going to address this. Mm-hmm. What did he just say, Joseph? Listen, God, I was so frustrated by and this is why fans say, can we get some actual coverage? Because you guys waste your time asking these questions that are inconsequential at this point. That's inconsequential at this point. Yeah. The time to ask him about rumors was about 4 months ago. Yeah. Now that we've interviewed him, I can tell this. We were on the verge of a Harsin interview. Like, how long was it? Like 6 straight months?
Yeah, I mean, this was literally in the midst of the controversy. We were negotiating, trying to figure out how we're going
to do this interview. The further we got away from February, the less relevant those questions became. And so when we did do the interview in May or June, right? By that time, they're like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? Well, I don't want to talk about anything from February. It's irrelevant at this point.
Right.
You put it to bed. We didn't ask him one question about controversy. You know what we did when we got the precious little time that a head coach of a football team gives you? We asked him about football. We went through film. We talked about things that are actually going to matter on the field in the fall. So I don't, this started with a comment, but like I'm just so frustrated. This is why this proverbial hot seat exists, because people are manufacturing it with these dumbass questions.
Yeah.
Be better.
Well, what is better is that someone's about to get a mug, and courtesy of our friend Walt Taylor, guys. You know what to do. Drop hashtag get your weight up in the comments to enter to win. And these days we don't wait. We don't wait at all. Ike's about to get right to it. How many entries we got?
We got things to do, man. 65 entries. Get your weight up in the comments. We are going to see who's going to get this mug, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. This week's lucky winner is Mad Barber. Mad Barber. That's a new name right there. Mad Barber. Make sure you let us know that you are currently present to be able to take advantage of your winnings while we wait on the Mad Barber. For those of you who are feeling a little anxiety about the fact that maybe your name flashed on the screen and held for like 30 seconds in your mind before it flipped over to Mad Barber, take a second, chill with our guys from Chill Boys.
Treat your boys. Chill Boys underwear is designed for maximum comfort with enough space to keep you cool, calm, and comfortable. Chill Boys underwear will help you keep the boys close, not too close. When the game is on the line, you won't break a sweat with Chill Boys underwear. Whether it's left boy, right boy, or both boys, Chill Boys provides your boys comfort like you never felt. Maximize your chill with Chill Boys.
Mad Barber, we see you here in the comments. Make sure you send an email to business@thewarreport.com so that we can get your merch out to you. Appreciate you for tuning in to the show and being a supporter of the War Report. That mug is coming to you courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. That's our guy, Walt Taylor. He has that business that's out there helping restaurants to be more proficient in what they do. So we thank him for supporting the War Report. Mad Barber, we thank you for showing up and being here with the fam.
Let's get a pair of Chill Boys to Goodman so he could chill his ass out.
I'm not giving him.
I don't think it'll work. I don't think it'll work.
Put these on your ass and chill out.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. Let's get into the preseason voting. Let's talk about that. And we got a graphic that kind of shows. First off, how was that? Because you guys participated in that, right?
Yeah, we did. We didn't see. I didn't look at Ike's answers. He didn't look at mine.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Like we voted independently. But
all good. All good. Right. There was some BS after the end when it was all said and done. Speaking of which, let's talk about how they voted the divisions. Right.
Okay. All right.
Let's start with the East Division. Not a lot of suspense there. Georgia got the most votes. Kentucky right behind them. That makes sense. Followed by Tennessee, which many people are expecting to take a step forward. But then you have Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy. Not a surprise there. Any thoughts on that, guys? Any difference of opinion there?
Somebody was buying whatever Clark Lee was selling, boy. Because the parenthesis is number of first place votes that you got,
right?
Or votes to win. So somebody was buying whatever Clark Lee was selling. Is all I'm saying.
You don't think they were trolling?
I mean, I don't know that this is the time to troll.
Right? Not in these votes. Yeah.
If you were trolling, then they need to revoke your media credentials. Like, stop.
Right.
Like, what are we doing? Like, these are actual picks that people are going to be basing postseason reactions to or reaction shows off of. It's not the time to troll. Use your Twitter account to troll. When you come to SEC Media Days, make real picks.
Well, they didn't ask. Some people didn't ask real questions, so I'll take your point on that, Ike. Let's get to what's up, B?
What's his name? Josh Knox right here. Tennessee is better than Kentucky. I think Hendon Hooker was far and away the best quarterback on that side, and it wasn't really that close. It's just that Georgia had such an amazing season in defense that they didn't get the shine. They were out of contention after Joe Milton got his couple stars, really. And really, once they lost to Pitt, people kind of stopped paying attention to Tennessee. You lose to an ACC school that's not even expected to be great. They actually ended up.
I about to say Pitt actually ended up being good.
They ended up being really good, but that still took them out of mind for a lot of people. And Kentucky looked good in some games, but it's not that I'm not buying Will Levis. It's that I'm not buying Will Levis to do it again after people have time, because by the end of the season, he wasn't really doing great numbers wise. They figured out they needed to run him. Their running back is probably more important than Will Levis is to that offense. I expect them to try to reproduce some of that, but I expect a lot of teams that they play this year to kind of have their number, because Will Levis has some holes in his game. I think Hendon Hooker has less holes in his game. I think Tennessee has better talent on the outside. And with that offense, with what Josh Heupel wants to do, I expect them to be the second best team in the East. And it's still puzzling to me that South Carolina is somehow getting 3 first-place votes, but they're finishing 5th in the division. I would like to hear some people who voted South Carolina number 1 to explain that, but
yeah.
The QB transfer from Oklahoma.
Yeah,
so people are buying the hype.
Here's the thing that I'll say about the whole Tennessee versus Kentucky thing. I don't know which one has the better team. Kentucky probably has the better defense. Tennessee probably has the better offense. I will say this. Despite what you saw as a result on the field last year, I think Tennessee is more likely to contend with Georgia this year on the field, because of the fact that, and Mike and I had this conversation, I said I was considering asking Kirby this question, but I didn't want to make him too upset. He's traditionally, as a defensive coordinator and as a head coach, had issues with tempo teams. And Tennessee is going to run up tempo with Josh Heupel, with another year of them being able to do that. And Georgia's defense potentially, not saying they definitively will because they're going to have a bunch of talent, but potentially taking a step backwards this season. I expect Tennessee to hang more points on them this year. Just because Tennessee is going to be more proficient in their offense. Georgia's going to be a little bit they're not going to be as good. So I think that there's a chance for Tennessee to sneak Georgia this year. When we get closer to that game, we'll definitely talk more about it, but that is a potential thing that could happen out there.
And Tennessee does have Kentucky when they meet head to head. They face them in Knoxville. So that's something to keep an eye out for as well.
Let me tell you, I stood next to and listened to Hendon Hooker at media days. And I had the privilege of just being around some of the interviews that he did on Radio Row as well too. Man, he's an impressive kid, and
super humble, super cool. I liked him.
Yeah, I listened to his interviews, man. Just as he walked around, just a very respectful guy. I like his ceiling. And I think he's an intelligent player. Tennessee's got a ball player in Hendon Hooker. Yeah. Now, as is with so many teams, he didn't start the season last year as their starter. But, man, he took advantage of the opportunity that was presented to him a couple games in. And I think that Tennessee could make some noise in the East, in that top 3. I like them in that spot. I really do. But they could easily finish second in that division. And if the ball bounces their way, maybe that Tennessee-Georgia game gets interesting, right? Ike, did you say it? Where is that on the schedule for them?
I didn't say. I don't know where it is, though. It's later in the season, though. They've got time to figure it out what Georgia does on defense. So I think that makes it a little bit better. But
it's November 5th. So, and that makes it even more compelling.
Right.
Because we'll know what those teams are at that point. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that game. I think the East was like, now I didn't vote Georgia number 1 in the East. I voted South Carolina. I just think Shane Beamer did a Soulja Boy dance video, so they've got to win, right? Like,
man, please tell me you're playing.
The votes are private. But
what you telling us?
They got 3. They got
I'm
3.
telling you publicly what I did in private.
I'm not saying I'm
That's
one
how
of
that
those.
works.
I'm not saying I'm one of those 3 votes, but I'm just
You
saying.
just said that.
I'm just saying. Southie, no, really, real talk. I did not vote them number 1, so that's somebody else clowning. But yeah, I don't know, man. The East, there's a lot could happen there. Right between, South Carolina could finish, I think in the 4 or 3 spot if some things go right. If Spencer Rattler is that deal, maybe he bounces them up a little bit. We'll see. I see he's been talking on social media. He's been talking. Rattler has been talking on Twitter.
He's been talking ever since
season.
He's been talking. He's been
media.
He's been talking ever since he left high school, though.
Right. Yeah. And then as far as the West is concerned, listen, man, flip a coin. This could go a lot of ways. They got Auburn way down there at the bottom, but I'll tell you what.
Let's talk about that while we're at it. Forget about everything else. Let's Jaquan Grant says, fellas, how y'all like Burks commented on Auburn prediction of finishing last in SEC West Division? Burks said,
predict them.
Predict these.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
How y'all like that? What'd you think about that?
We had Marquise on the show. We did a building report with him. He's a confident kid. I like him a lot. I think he's another one of those guys that fans may not expect to make an impact on the field, but this defensive line is really loaded. Like they're going to cause problems. They're going to be a problem for people this fall. So these predictions, we asked. I wanted to ask Coach Harsin about this because I think it's relevant. Remember the 4 and 26 T-shirts or whatever that the basketball team made that one year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About the prediction on their schedule. They went out and they blew out that prediction. This is similar to me. I just wonder if they're using this as motivation going into their season to say, hey, listen, nobody expects us to do anything. Let's go out here and one by one every week, let's put these coaches on the B Will's bums list. Right? I don't know, man. I just feel like 4 and 8. Every team in our conference won, in our division won at least 6 games last year. There's a lot of talent. I got a chance to ask Coach Saban a question. They played the hot take version of it, but the first part of my question was about how, as a national championship winning coach, he stays ahead of the coaching curve with so much talent from a coaching perspective in his division. There are marquee coaching minds in the SEC. It's tough. Think about the West now, right? You've got Brian Kelly coming into this joint, heralded. Now, I mean, I think Notre Dame is overrated, but I think that Brian Kelly is a decent coach. Lane Kiffin, I think his pedigree is proven. So that's LSU and Ole Miss right there. The Mad Hatter, Mike Leach, is going to cause problems for people at some point during the season. Will Rogers, I think, is being completely disrespected in a lot of the QB rankings, but he could be the second best quarterback in this league. We have a Heisman winner returning, which is rare. I asked Saban about that too. He's in the rare position where he is got a Heisman Trophy winning returning QB. So many of them don't win it. Ike and I were talking about this early enough in their career that they would come back the season after they win the Heisman. You've got Heisman, you've got all that going on there, and there's just so much. Can we put the list back up real quick? And then you've got Texas A&M with their crazy recruiting classes, and their line now. I'll be interested to see if their line takes the next step. Now they got the inexperienced excuse from me. But, to B's point, if you're good at developing, we should see them take the next step forward. Now, Spiller isn't coming back, Isaac, is he?
No,
is Spiller going?
He's done.
Yeah, right. I watched that game. Is A-Chain back?
Yeah.
Yes.
A-Chain's back. I mean, they've got playmakers. They've got playmakers there. This is crowded. And then you have Arkansas. KJ Jefferson we'll see if he takes the next step forward. But there's a lot of talent in that division. I just think outside of Alabama, I just think it's a toss-up. This could finish any number of ways. Right? So predicting us at the bottom, I mean, that might be a good place to be right now in the preseason. Because, our questions are glaring to some people. But I'll tell you what, Ole Miss has just as many questions as Auburn does.
Mm-hmm.
LSU, just as many questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Texas A&M, maybe not as many questions, but they got questions.
Yeah.
Outside of Alabama, who doesn't have big-time questions?
I mean, it depends on what you feel about Alabama's offensive line as to whether or not they have.
They're going to take the next step, right?
No.
But they get the benefit of the doubt just because of what they've accomplished historically.
Right.
Only few teams in college football get the benefit of the doubt. But to your point, Isaac, right? They could maybe suck again this year. And Bryce Young is going to have to be extra Superman, because if I'm playing Alabama early in the season, I'm sending the house after Bryce Young.
Right. Because he's got to figure out how to develop that in-game chemistry with new wide receivers that are out there with an offensive line that could be porous. And then, everybody's really high on, I think his name is Jahmyr Gibbs, the new running back that's there.
Right.
But listen, we've had Tank Bigsby here now for 2 years, and we can tell you firsthand, having an outstanding running back doesn't do you any good if the offensive line isn't going to provide enough time for your quarterback to be able to do his thing, because then teams are just like, okay, we just got to stop the run then. No problem.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
So, to me, I'm just thinking to myself, here is an opportunity for us to do something special here. And the media gets this wrong. Georgia and Alabama are the obvious picks. I think they've earned that distinction to be picked at the top, but that's not to say that their seasons are going to go perfect. It's not. Now, I didn't get a chance to ask Kirby Smart a question about Stetson Bennett, because he didn't start the season as their starter, but he earned the job. And after they won the national title, Isaac and I were sitting there talking while Kirby was up there, like, do you think that there was an actual quarterback battle this spring? Because listen, Stetson Bennett, he finished kind of middle of the conference in a lot of statistics. He was efficient, but he doesn't jump off the paper at you. Certainly. And they've got a great team around him. I don't know if you put him on a team with lesser talent that he makes people around him better.
Right.
So, if Stetson struggles, what does Georgia's team look like? Now, my question to Kirby was, assuming that he's getting the benefit of the doubt, what's the plan behind him? Because JT Daniels is gone.
Yeah, right. West Virginia.
So who steps in if Stetson gets hurt or isn't playing well? Now, he gave me the coach speak answer about, we feel good about all our quarterbacks. But I don't know how we could sit here and say, hey, listen, the national champions switched quarterbacks last season. So behind Stetson, they got question marks. Everybody is looking at our question marks like it's a foregone conclusion. And I'm telling you, it could go either way for Auburn. But that's the same story for a lot of those teams not named Alabama ranked above us in this poll. Yeah. The same story. Who's got look at this list and tell me, outside of Arkansas, maybe not even Arkansas, who's got a quarterback that you are confident in is going to have a great season?
Mississippi State. Alabama. Right. Yeah. So like you said,
There, that's it.
Yeah, there's question marks at quarterback for literally everybody else. Like, again, and that's not to, that sounds like a shot at KJ Jefferson, and it's not. He's just what KJ Jefferson is good at actually matches well with what our defense is good at. And that's
we ate him up.
Right.
So
the issue that you're going to have as KJ Jefferson against our defense specifically is you have to operate through the air proficiently enough to make us stay honest, because otherwise we're just gonna pack the middle of the field and make you throw, make you earn it. And that's not to say KJ Jefferson can't do it. I'm just saying I haven't seen it successfully done consistently from him. So again, neither here nor there, but to answer your point specifically, yes, I think Mississippi State and Alabama really have the only quarterback positions that you're sitting there like, okay, I know what I'm going to get from them, and they're going to be good.
Right. So that's. I just think this is. Predicting Auburn last. That may not mean 4. I mean, maybe we do finish last, but that doesn't mean 4 and 8.
Yeah, you could have a 6-win season
and finish last in the West, because that's exactly what happened last year. 6-6 was good for bottom of our division. And I'm telling you, in a lot of other conferences, 6-6 will have you right in the middle of your division with a couple good teams at the top and then a few flops way down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
13 out of 14 teams. Everybody but Vandy made a bowl game last year or qualified for a bowl.
And someone thought they were going to win the East.
That wasn't me. It wasn't me. So
as an aside to this, I actually was at the hotel bar one night and I was talking to a Missouri fan, not there with the media, just happened to be in town. Missouri fans are actually pretty confident in what Missouri is going to be trotting out on the field this year based upon the transfers that they had that came into the program. They think between the recruiting job which I think Eli Drinkwitz is actually a really good coach. Between the transfers that they have and the recruiting job that Eli Drinkwitz, they like the direction that program is heading. The question is whether they're going to be able to stop people and whether they will have figured that stuff out by the time we see them, because I could care less what Missouri does the rest of the season. I just want to know what they're going to have working for them by game 3.
Right. So I just think, there is there's an opportunity here for Auburn to just go out and that people expect you to finish last. What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
They're going to go out there and play with abandon. And the interview that Ike referenced, I think some of the comments that we got were symbolic of that. All right, hold my beer.
The confidence in that building is at an all-time high.
Right now.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen when we lose our first game, because I don't think we're going to go undefeated. But that to me is going to be the test of what this team is made of.
What they're made of, yeah.
They're going to curb the way they feel right now. We're going to curb stomp Mercer and San Diego State
into the ground.
It's gonna be San Jose State. Excuse me. It's gonna get bad if they trot into those games that confident and executing well. It's gonna look real ugly those first 2 games.
Yeah, I think so. And
week 3 against Missouri, as long as they don't get cocky, that should actually look pretty bad.
That should look bad. That should be. I mean, we should be talking about a 4-1 Auburn headed into LSU.
Georgia.
Georgia's the.
He's at 4-1.
Oh yeah, 4-1. We've already played.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I mean, at least a 3-1 Auburn headed into LSU. Right. I think, and if they can get off to a 4-2 start, you find 3 more wins on that schedule, and I'll tell you what.
I mean, you got 1 guaranteed on the back end of the schedule. You got 1 more cupcake, but yeah, to your point, I just don't. The 4 wins is just so ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
it's just so ridiculous.
There are a couple teams with just as many question marks sitting there that you beat last year.
Right.
So to put it in perspective for everybody, if the defense takes even a little bit of a step forward next year, marginal improvement next year, or you win another game, we're +1 on the schedule.
Right.
If the offense takes marginal steps forward, where we don't go out and put up goose eggs on offense, you're plus another game. That's your 8-win season right there. Because I don't know how everybody's looking. I mean, I think Ole Miss is getting the benefit of the doubt because of Lane Kiffin's, you know what I mean? Because of his
I mean, he's got the prowess offensively. I get that. But the problem is Lane Kiffin himself isn't confident in who he's going to have starting at quarterback.
He spent the whole offseason bitching about NIL.
Mm-hmm.
We can't compete, and they got more money than us. Okay, so you're not feeling real great about the talent you got in the building.
This is the guy. What kind of car was he driving around in with his recruits? Did y'all see that video where the guy was like, "Yeah, you're gonna come down to the SIP," and he had him in the back seat of his car, driving him around. Like it's a really nice car, but I'm just like, you can't play it both ways, Lane. You can't be out here flashing your car, driving around recruits, and then complain, "Oh, we don't have enough money." Like, what are we?
Well,
doing?
He has enough money. But see, his alum base and their boosters don't have enough money to compete with Texas A&M and Texas. And he is right in that about that. He's
correct. That's when you have to coach better.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Josh Knox asked Mike G, can Auburn start 5-0?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think that's impossible.
Yeah, the key to this will be Penn State, I think. The key to 5-0 will be Penn State. You got to get Penn State the third game, and 5-0 becomes a reality if you start 3-0. Obviously, you have to go 5-0. But I mean, I can see us beating LSU and Missouri and losing that game in the middle.
Okay.
Now, what's the guy's name? Sean Clifford.
Mm-hmm.
He played a game of his life against us last year, 20 for 22. I mean, it was about as perfect a game as he's played all year. I don't expect. I underestimated what that whiteout environment would mean to Penn State. It was incredible.
Yeah, I don't think that our team went there looking scared in the whiteout.
No, I don't
think
think
the
so.
issue that we had was we hadn't figured out our good communication on the back end, and they were playing the tempo. And they're freaking what's the whiteouts? Jahan Dotson had an unbelievable game.
Yeah,
like
he's gone.
Sean Clifford, he did play well, but he got bailed out a few times on some catches where they were not great throws, right? And then, God bless him, Kobe Hudson comes out and fumbles away the first possession of the second half, and he puts us behind the 8 ball defensively there. So, I mean, there were a lot of things. And so, again, this is going to sound like I'm trying to take a dump on people who are not here right now. There are a lot of things that went wrong in that game that were directly contributable to people who are no longer with this program, right? And that's not to crap. I thought it was a stupid call that had Kobe Hudson in the position to even make that play.
Right.
I just think that it was a dumb call. I think it was a dumb call for us not to run the ball more. I think that for whatever reason, Bo Nix thought he had angels on the field to catch the passes he was throwing to the heavens. Like, I just don't understand. There were opportunities that were there that we could have won that football game. And a lot of the things that went wrong, for some reason, the tight end was not a position we thought could catch passes. Right. So, like, a lot of the things that went wrong in that game, you're going to fix with a little bit more experience in a very similar program defensively. And you're going to fix because you have a different play caller, and you're going to fix because hopefully you have a quarterback who knows how to throw the ball to people in your uniform.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's
talk about the SEC champion. No surprise here as to who they voted.
Yeah, I mean,
this is still a joke, but
I mean, they arguably have the best player in college football returning for another season, right? So I don't think this is.
I mean, two of the top 5 players exist on that team, right? Like, I would argue Will Anderson might be in the top 5 of players in college football. Bryce Young is undoubtedly one of the top, if not the top, quarterback in all of college football.
What he accomplished last year, behind that offensive line, made his Heisman even more impressive. Because again, I watched Texas A&M, and I watched him get pummeled and come back and make play after play after play. So this is the benefit of the doubt that you get. And Will Anderson, they're talking about him potentially as a guy who could make that Heisman. He could make it to New York, not win it, but he could be one of the 5 to make it to New York on defense. We don't see that very often. So they do have two of the best players in college football exist on that team on either side of the football.
Yeah, and Georgia's no surprise here, getting the second most votes.
I mean, it would be disrespectful not to put the defending national champion as even having the potential to win again in their own conference. Like, that's disrespectful.
Right.
Yeah, I think the chances of Georgia winning the conference is kind of low, considering that we just saw them be very competitive with Alabama. Now, of course, you could say, well, Alabama whooped them in the SEC championship game last year, and then Alabama lost their best wide receiver in the championship game. And I still wonder what type of difference Jameson Williams would have made there. But I think the difference for Kirby, the reason I would have him higher is you lost a lot of talent. You didn't lose all of it. And it's not like you've been slacking on the recruiting trail before right now. So the guys who weren't starters last year were still seeing snaps. They were still getting experience. And now all they have is everybody coming back and telling them you got 18 chances to win the conference while Alabama has 158. A word? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, that was Kirby's whole point, is that he made, which I think was probably the second strongest statement, outside of well, maybe the third, because I do think that the opening statement from Harsin about, you tried, it didn't work, and Google it, like, that was strong. And then the watch response about what recruits need to see was very strong. But Kirby's response, or his opening statement where he came out and he said, "We will not be hunted," I thought was a very strong statement because he knew the narrative coming into SEC Media Days was going to be complacency. So he went straight out and he attacked it head on. And he's like, if you're worried about that, then you don't know the type of players that we tried out there on the field. I thought that was a very strong statement. Now they have got, but he was also very forthright in saying the issue is going to be we don't have experience on the field.
Right.
Those guys need game reps to be great. We can be good because they're talented. Are they going to be great? That's yet to be seen. We need to see it play out on the field, which is one of the reasons I am so thankful we played Georgia earlier in the year. Now we don't have that back end Georgia cupcake Bama to end the season where both of those teams have had an opportunity to work out the kinks. If we had caught Bama earlier in the season last year, that's probably a W.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Well,
we would have given some problems.
Our defense, our back end
I just
was
don't think
shakier
y'all
early in the
realize
season,
how
too.
bad that Bama offensive line
Was
Like,
early in the
they
season.
were better by the time we saw them. They were abysmal earlier in the year.
Florida came up 2 points short.
People can
Florida.
say what they want to about our defensive line. Our defensive line was leading the conference in tackles for loss for the vast majority of the season. So it wasn't a thing that like this was like I understand people's thought processes. Oh, we had a different defensive coordinator. We were more aggressive. Bama was bad on the offensive line. They were bad. So I don't know. I don't think you had to be more aggressive against Bama on the defensive line. I think the nature of that rivalry plus the terrible nature of Bama and their offensive line would have resulted in the same thing, if not worse, earlier in the season. I just think that those players wanted it. It was going to be their last opportunity to do it for some of them at home against Bama. They were just going out there saying, we're going to get this win. So you couple that with Bama being worse on the offensive line, I think you would have had a similar result as far as the defense is concerned. And you would have had a healthy Bo Nix in that game.
Yeah.
No. And not a hobbled TJ in the second half.
Right.
Before we get to the voting of the All-SEC team, Alex Wilson has a question for you, B. Will. He says, I'm betting 200 on Auburn winning the Natty. Payout will be about 30K. B. Will, you in on that odd?
I'm throwing 100 on that no matter what, because those odds are phenomenal. So
yeah, I did it 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And
the odds are probably worse now that the media votes, because believe it or not, that stuff does sway money action from casual bettors and therefore changes the value of those odds. So yeah, I'm absolutely gonna put something on it. It'd probably be 100 for me though.
My payout at the odds that I got was 40K. Plus 40,000 or whatever.
So it was great then, yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess when the Harsin drama was still, that would have been the best time.
Yeah, I got a couple months ago. So I was like, you know what, just gonna throw this on here. And if for some reason they pull a 2010, the War Rapport is going to Vegas. To celebrate. So
listen, let's take a look at how Auburn fared in terms of the Media Days preseason All-SEC team. Let's look at the results here. We got to do Mike's drum roll, but we all right on that. First team is running back Tank Bigsby, who of course had a pretty good really good season, almost 1,100 yards last year, poised to have another good year this year. Defensive lineman Derek Hall. Second team, defensive lineman Kobe Wooden. Punter Oscar Chapman, who had an incredible year last year. I expect even more out of him. And Anders Carlson made second team. Third team, Owen Papo, looking for a healthier Owen Papo to really impress and be the leader of that second unit. Guys, your take about how these guys fared?
Listen, okay, so some have said this is the least talented team in Auburn history. And it's weird to have two people voted first team All-SEC on the least talented team we've ever had. Tank Bigsby is not getting his due because of the struggles our offensive line had in run blocking last year.
Right.
But if they make improvements, you could see him break out. I think that this vote was symbolic of, the potential that's there. Derek Hall, man, I mean, I stood next to him. First of all, this dude is big, man. Like,
Bro,
I was like,
I wish I shook their hands and I was just like, yo, why is my hand being enveloped by another human being right now? Like I'm talking about Tank, I'm talking about Derek Hall and Shanker. I was just like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, it was a tiny bit emasculating, but like the the idea, this guy, I watched him tell Ike, like I'm coming for that sack record. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to that effect about that sack record. Like I'm coming for that sack record. And again, first team. Listen, if he does what he says he's going to do, he's going to finish on that list at first team, right? Beyond that, pull the list back up for me. I'm sorry. Beyond that, Colby Wooden, another guy that can really, really make a difference.
He could potentially end up on the first team by the end of the year.
That's the guy of all of the ones. I can understand why Owen Pappo is where he is just because of his productivity and coming back off the injury. Colby Wooden has done nothing but embarrass the offensive lineman for 2 years.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't understand how he's and again, that's no shot to anybody who's in front of him on that list. I just think that Colby Wooden's that good.
Yeah. Right. Well, again, it's the low expectations are why these guys aren't getting the pub they deserve.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you look at teams like Alabama, right, there are guys that get a bunch of pub that don't deserve it just because of the team successes over the years.
Yeah, because that defensive secondary wasn't all that good, and they had like 5 guys that made the top 3 teams. And I'm just like, I don't think that guy was that good. Like Kool-Aid McKinstry was voted like second team All-SEC or something like that. I was just like, are we being serious? Based on what?
He was actually third team.
He got a handful of snaps, and I guess because he was a 5-star recruit, they're just expecting him to thrive this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Malachi Moore was third team.
Malachi Moore was just okay last year.
Right.
Like
Jordan Battle is
I thought Jordan
team.
Battle actually played well for them last year. And what's the other guy?
Eli Ricks.
No, Helms. I thought Battle and Helms were probably the 2 guys that I expect to be really good on that defensive backfield this year for that team. Like Helms is all over the place. He's a hard-hitting guy. He's got a nose for the football. I don't know. What do I know? But
Owen Pappo on third team, I think, is acknowledgement of his potential, but also acknowledging his history with injuries.
Right.
So he,
that's why I don't think that's a bad spot for him.
Yeah, I don't either. I think I think him even making an All-SEC
prediction list, right? Like not based on what he's actually produced this year, but what we predict him to finish the season. I think that that's fair based upon what we know about him and the fact that he's coming back off of injury. Now he can exceed this. Absolutely. He's got the talent to do it. Correct. Whether he will, yet to be seen.
Yeah.
What do we think about the year? What do we need to see? Just more consistency from Anders Carlson this year. Good kicker. I mean, obviously that name brings prestige, but there was some little disappointing moments last year, and of course he got injured last year. But what do we need to see from Anders Carlson?
Consistency is it, man. Listen, you said good kicker, average kicker. I think his results have been average.
Right.
Now, I think his results have been average, and there's no way his job should be guaranteed this season. Not based on what he did last season.
So the thing with Anders Carlson, I think, is that he absolutely has a strong leg.
Yeah.
It's just the accuracy for the deeper ones that he just doesn't have that his brother had. And I think some people are in their minds trying to make him his brother, and he's not.
He's not. Yeah.
And I think that is the media is really attaching themselves to his
the Carlson name. Yeah.
Right, as opposed to his productivity, unfortunately, because to me, he's not the second best kicker in our league.
If he's got to go out there and kick a 45-yarder to win it, I'm super worried.
Yeah.
It's less than 50-50 that he's going to make it. At this point, based on the numbers that we have, I'll go back and take a look at his actual numbers from last season. But outside of 45 yards, which you might find yourself in that 40 to 45 yard range, that's good.
That's where you want. Yeah, I say that's where you want your kicker to be accurate. Like you're just outside of the red zone, and you and a drive stalls. You're right in that range where it's like, do I go for it? If it's a short enough down in distance, do I punt it away and try to pin them, or do I kick a long field goal? right? And if you have to eliminate that third option off of the plate, then you're putting your defense in more difficult. It becomes the returns start to diminish, because unless you've got an amazing pooch kick or it is a very close fourth down situation, you're putting your defense in a tough spot. Right now, if you're Lane Kiffin, then it's automatically go for it on fourth. But, you know, with Brian Harsin actually being able to utilize the full capacities of his brain, he does have options there on fourth.
Right. He was 2 of 4 from 30 to 39 yards. So he's 50% from that distance.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. It's a 50-50 proposition.
Yeah, he was 6 of 6 inside 30 yards.
Yeah, he's almost automatic.
He's pretty much.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little shocked at well, never mind. No, the numbers are right where I thought it would be. He was 6 of 8 from 40 to 49 yards.
Okay.
But 0 of 3 from 50.
Right.
Or so after 45 yards, if you just kind of combine the numbers there, right? That's 6 of 11.
Yeah,
6 of 11.
Accuracy gets a little shaky.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's not crazy. Like, there's not a lot of kickers who are going to be super accurate but when you're talking about the best at your profession, that number starts to be higher than 50%. Right?
He missed an extra, and he missed an extra point.
Yeah,
he missed
the first one of the season.
Early,
yeah. So I mean, overall on the season, he was 67% on his field goals.
Which again, that's not. And so anybody hearing me say this, I'm not saying Anders Carlson is a bad kicker.
Right.
Right. Like and I need people to be able to separate bad from ranked maybe a little bit too high right now. Right. Like it's the same thing I'll say about Spencer Rattler, even though I do think he's just an average quarterback based upon what he's done on the field. But I'm not saying Spencer Rattler sucks. I'm just telling you, if you're giving him Heisman hype, where?
Right.
Or where do you get that?
In a tier by himself going into last season. Right.
I'm not saying Will Levis is an awful quarterback. I'm saying first pick in the draft, good. Are we being serious?
Well, let's in context of our season, right? 14 of 21 on the season kicking field goals. Now, mind you, he got hurt near the end of the season, so he didn't finish the season. But them 7 field goals that he missed, right?
They were critical
in a lot of games that we lost by less than a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
Are critical momentum things. And
to LCB's point, 2 of those kicks for 50+ were blocked, right? So like, there's part of that he can't do anything about. I mean, some of it might be trajectory on the kick.
Yeah, right. And I'm about to say kick it too low.
Right.
Kick it too low.
I'm actually more concerned about blocks than just misses on 50, because when you get to 50, it's dicey. Past 50, it's a tough proposition for almost any kicker. But if you're consistently getting blocked, like some teams are good at blocking kicks. Like we know what Beamer used to do at Virginia Tech, but that's him. Special teams was going to be locked down. But if you're consistently missing kicks and against different teams, now it's a process of how are you getting this ball out and up to get it that distance. So I'm a little worried. I'm with Mike G. I'm a little worried.
Yeah,
I think we have solid kickers behind him.
SEC confident.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing that started this. Is he the second best kicker in our league?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. If he is, he could be. If he is, that means that.
Yeah, so let's be clear about this.
Good. Yeah.
No, let's be clear. If Anders Carlson plays up to the potential of being the second best kicker in our league, that means we can literally score from anywhere.
We are good.
Or the kickers in the league suck that year.
I mean, that's possible. I just don't think that by and large, as a conference, we have terrible kicking games. Like
but the preface is if he plays up to second team status, like he had a really good year.
All right.
Yeah. So with that being said, man, media days put to bed. It's safe to say nothing's really changed in our perception. We're still in wait and see mode. We were waiting to see the product on the field, but we're excited to see more of Harsin's culture being installed, and guys appear to be buying in. Right. And so, from what we've been hearing, there is a lot to be excited about and looking forward to. And so, let's get into some of the comments, questions people have. I'm gonna start here. Ryan Brown with this. Appreciate you, man. He says, how do we need to improve in-game management, game prep adjustments? Thoughts on that, guys?
That's year 2. it's year 2 in the system, so getting used to the way a coaching staff does things. I mean, that's part of the growing pains of changing systems and processes and things of that nature. It's rough in the first year. Now, second year, we should see marked improvements and all of that. So there was a comment that we got during an interview. I forgot which interview it was about timing of getting installs during the week.
I think that was, I don't think that was actually on camera, but that was a conversation. Yeah, I think that was Jay Fair we were talking about.
Like, I mean, just about little things that are procedural things that affected prep and they're trying to figure some things out. It just isn't smooth in year 1. Very few coaches walk in. I just think with time, those things get better. So in year 2, we'll know if it's working or not, because we should see some things improve. And we saw the effects of some of it last year. Let's be clear, man. I know I've had my feelings about him, but Bo Nix got better under Brian Harsin.
Yes.
Yeah, factual.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody can debate
That's
that.
not debatable. He got better. I think that this system and their process was good for Bo. And I don't think that it is a guarantee that if Gus had stayed, Bo would have made that jump.
I'd almost bet that it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. I don't think that everybody was acting like it would be like it's like a guarantee Bo would come back next year, that he would have been better. And if he was going to be, I would credit that to the one variable that changed, which was the coaching staff.
Right.
And the system. It benefited Bo. I thought we saw the best Bo Nix we've seen in a while. Even though it was still a little shaky at times, it was definitely an improvement over the first 2 years.
Right.
So along with that, I think you'll see the improvement in year 2 for other people in other position groups.
Yeah.
James Jordan asked, how do you all feel about all of Harsin's new hires? I'll jump in here and give my 2 cents. I like it. I like the hires. You had a lot of continuity, especially with your coordinators. These are guys who have been with Harsin, knows Harsin's system, knows what Harsin expects. So there's very little, there's not much lost, especially given that these guys were here year 1. It's not like he's bringing them in from the outside and they worked with Harsin in the past. Right. They were here from day 1, building and installing. And so I like that. Drew Fabianic, we talked about him a few weeks back when he was hired. We love that hire, especially with the dividends that could provide down the road. We also talked about Ike Hilliard. We talked about him earlier in the show and how amazing of a pickup that was with Keesaw moving to OC. And so I like the hires, but for continuity's sake, but he also went out and got some major hires from the NFL.
Right.
And so you have to be excited about what Harsin has done in the offseason with his hires. But guys, anything more you want to add to that?
Yeah, wait and see on the hires, man. I like Hilliard was the best hire I think that he made. And then in terms of recruiting, like Brumbaugh, I mean, there's some narratives out there about Brumbaugh not being able to close, on guys that I don't think are particularly fair right now, because it's not just about him. It's about the program in general, where the program is at. Right. So we'll see. Like, they put a better product on the field. I think, we'll know how these hires. Ask me again in 3 months.
Yeah.
How I feel about the hires.
Fair enough. B Will's forehead is back. He says, my SEC Media Day takeaways are Mike G has bigger arms than what I thought, and Ike looks more handsome with glasses on. War Eagle, guys.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't been in the gym in a while. COVID wrecked all my fitness. So hopefully before the season's over, I can get back in some kind of groove. But yeah, the camera adds 10 pounds.
Ed Darby asks, how we doing film review this season? Of course, that's directed towards you, Ike.
Yeah, I mean, so it just kind of depends. Y'all know how it goes down with YouTube and streaming that video. So we're gonna, maybe we'll try it out for a couple of games and see how it goes, and if not, then we'll have to go back to the version where Mike and I just do it and then post it later. So we'll figure it out as the season goes along, but a lot of that is largely dependent on things that are outside of our control. So we'll see.
Right.
Cal Sweat says the concern isn't our team is better, but if our schedule is harder than last year.
I think our schedule is almost akin to what it was last year, right? Like you look at our non-conference game or out-of-conference game being Penn State, our crossover game being Missouri versus South Carolina. The only portion of this that most people, the narrative would be is that we're away against Georgia and Bama, which makes it harder for us to play. I just don't think that this team is scared of any road environment. So I don't really, I think it gives us a home field advantage for sure. But I am not in a position, and this is hopeful outlook. I'm not in a position where I think that this Auburn team walks into Sanford Stadium or Bryant-Denny Stadium and is intimidated.
Right.
Yeah. So
right. Now,
home or away, I don't think that they love playing in front of their home fans, but I feel like they can kick anybody's butt on any field.
Yeah.
Agreed. But I'm statistically in overtime, it bears out. It's not that anybody plays worse away, because I don't think our team played poorly at Penn State. I think home teams play better. And that's really the difference. They're gassed up by the crowd and the energy and the familiarity. So I think, yes, it is a tough ask to beat a team that's more talented than you, that's a better team at their place. And that's the position we've been in every time we've gone to Bama or Georgia over the last 8 years or 9 years now, is they are better built and equipped. Can you do something about it? And it's been a no. I don't think that makes this schedule harder, because those are always going to be tougher teams anyway.
Right.
That's it. Those are going to be our 2 hardest games, no matter what. If somebody were to tell you right now, we went 10-2, what 2 games did we lose? You're probably going to say Bama and Georgia. So because of that, I like the fact that we have Penn State in our place, that we have our SEC East opponent here at home. And it's a team who was one of the worst defensive teams I've seen in like 10 years. Missouri was awful on defense last year. So we have an advantage just in those 2 games, and having Arkansas at home, I think is good. They're going to want some get back, but hey, y'all are here. I'm not afraid of Mississippi State or Ole Miss. I think we let Mississippi State off the hook. And I've already said this. I think the motivation for that one will probably be higher than any other game this season, because they put that on the Summer Jam screen the entire offseason. That's been Mississippi State's the feather in their cap since the season ended. That comeback at Auburn. All right, this defense going to get up for that game. I think our schedule is a little bit easier because of all those things.
Yeah. And now listen. This interview, right? Like, the person we interviewed has games circled on the schedule. Calzada, we asked him, before we could finish the question, he was like, Arkansas.
Right.
They did some zone mess, and they got me last year, but they're not going to get me this year. There's some motivation here for some of these guys in some of those games that I think it'll just be interesting. So we'll see.
Right. And I mean, I watched Mississippi State after they played us, and I saw how people were defending them.
Yeah.
I didn't see them carving up a lot of teams like they carved us up in that second half. So what I'm saying is, I'm not just assuming that it's going to be a replay of what happened last year. This is a smart coaching staff. They see how people struggle against certain defenses. I expect us to be better prepared and executing better against Mississippi State. But we will definitely see.
Yeah, I fear Will Rogers. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he cannot be taken lightly. And so
I agree with that. 2 things can be true, though.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot of I don't think there's a whole is there great defense for, just a super accurate quarterback, other than knock him on his butt.
Right. Well, yeah.
Rather than just get to him. So
yeah. All right. Hugh Rayleigh says, a friend of mine that coaches out west told me we better hope Harsin wins more than 6 games, because the better coaches won't be coming into the toxic environment going on at Auburn.
Can I address this? this? So Hugh,
hey, before we do this, do you want me to put you on the big screen by yourself?
No. I just would ask Hugh to ask his friend who made this statement, who are the quote unquote better coaches? Because that makes an assumption that Brian Harsin is not one of the better coaches.
No, wait, hold on. So
he said some of the better coaches won't be coming to this toxic environment. So if they're better, then you're assuming that Brian Harsin is a mid-level coach, a bad coach. He's not one of the better coaches that exist out there. So if we lose him, then there's no chance for us to get any better. I would ask, is that the question that you're saying? Like, where are you putting Harsin in your ranking?
Yeah, the way I'm reading this, I'm just reading it like, hey,
I understand the sentiment.
Yeah, they screwed Harsin. So if you're trying to get a better coach than Harsin to come in, it's going to be difficult.
Who would you
or
get?
Anybody that's viewed as a favorable.
Correct.
hire.
Yeah, just not anybody in particular, just
right.
anybody who would be like
From an
considered
optics
a
standpoint.
slam dunk hire. They're not going to come here because
but that's the narrative that has existed at Auburn.
I don't.
forever.
But I'm be honest. I think that's kind of overblown, given what Auburn's will be willing to pay for a coach. Like I see people say that a lot of times about places like, man, that's a tough place, and wow, look who they got.
Yeah, I don't know. Venable's comments really stung, I think, in terms of the credibility of this job. I mean, some of the things that he said publicly, like I don't know, I didn't know who I would be working for.
Yeah, and again, this isn't about what
pretty
Hugh said.
damning.
I'm saying his friend said this, so I'm not taking a shot at what Hugh's statement. I'm saying his friend seems to think that we'd have to go down, but I'm just wondering down from where? Like, where are you saying that Harsin exists in the spectrum? Is my question to his friend.
During the coaching search or after Harsin got hired, there was I heard a lot of sentiment. Why didn't we go after this guy? Why didn't we go after this guy? And my response to those people was, these people have to want to come here because it's more than just the money. If you are a top tier coach, you're going to get the money wherever you go. Right. So it comes down to all the other things that make Auburn a questionable destination for an established coach with a winning pedigree. Sometimes that's what you know how lucky we were to get Bruce Pearl. We were lucky as hell to get Bruce Pearl because he was technically damaged goods at the time.
Right.
And I don't know that Bruce Pearl comes to Auburn if that scandal never happens.
I mean, he stays at Tennessee.
He
stays at Tennessee.
I'm saying, let's say he leaves Tennessee for whatever reason, right? Not scandal related. I don't know that you're looking at Auburn. That's my point. My point is that he took Auburn. I worked out for him. He loves it here, and he found success here because he's a good coach.
Right. Sure.
But in an ideal world, we don't have a chance at Bruce Pearl. We lucked into Bruce Pearl. And from a football standpoint, I'm telling you, this is why I'm rooting for Harsin, and I thought it was the right way to go. Is that every coach every coach that's good was an up and coming coach at some point.
Yeah,
and somebody gave him a chance.
Honestly, I have the same sentiments of Brian Harsin as I think we lucked. Like a lot of the things that precipitated the downfall of Gus Malzahn made us lucky to be able to get Brian Harsin in here. Now, the question is whether or not the people who, and to your point that you make all the time, the people who have the ability to equip him to do his job well, whether or not they're going to allow that to happen. It's not about the caliber of coach that we've hired, because I think we have a top tier coach that, if equipped to be able to do the things he needs to be able to do, can win on the field. Because he has the right type of system that he has in place. He has the right type of culture that he's trying to build, and he gets buy-in from his players. What more do you need to be able to do as a coach other than be equipped with the resources to go and recruit? Because you can identify the talent, you can coach up the talent that you can get. The only thing missing is the resources to get the better guys on the field.
Right.
Yeah.
What more do you want from your coach?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Listen. Before we get out of here, guys, we have the best challenge in the land.
Yeah. Welcome to another Jazzy Challenge.
Location challenge. Where am I for 150 for the state that borders it? Georgia. I'm going to go for first. I'm going to say Virginia.
He's in Georgia.
He's in Georgia?
He's in Georgia.
Okay.
I mean, I know that he was in the Virginia area because he tweeted at Mike. That was yesterday?
No, he was literally driving through Atlanta.
What day was that?
It was Atlanta. And because I thought the tweet was about media days because they knew we were in Atlanta. I want to say it was Atlanta.
Yesterday?
Like this morning. Or late last night. Oh, he said not that close anymore. Okay, hold on. Wait. Oh, no, you're right. Virginia. My bad.
So he was in Virginia.
I retract my statement.
He was in Virginia yesterday.
He was in the Maryland, Virginia area.
Right. So he was in the DMV yesterday. The question is, which direction was he going?
Let's see. What's
He may have been heading to Maryland. See, Virginia's just say, I'm gonna go Maryland, actually.
Maryland, Baltimore. I'm gonna go Pennsylvania. Maybe he was driving north through Philadelphia. He's driving north.
Yeah, that's a side. Pennsylvania is a good guess.
Right. He was going to the 695 East on this picture through Washington. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Pennsylvania. Maybe he's in Philly.
You said eastbound in Virginia earlier.
Yeah, because it's literally, this is 95 south toward Washington. Yeah, so you go to Washington and you're going north or south. I think he was headed north.
He could go either direction. That's the tough part. I'll go the opposite direction then. I will say that he is in Florida.
Florida.
All right, so I'm gonna hit Ohio just in case he took a detour somewhere, and I want to touch all those other states. So Ohio.
But truckers can only drive like 8 hours at a time, and they have to stop.
I have no idea.
Yeah, there's regulations on it. So like, how far can you get in 8 hours? I mean,
how long does he stop? For 5 minutes?
Yeah, you have to sleep. You have to stop and sleep. But you can get all the way to New York from here in 3. That sucks. He's definitely not in Pennsylvania.
We're saying it's 12 hours that you can go without stopping.
12
hours. Because Jazzy has made up some ground that's like incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I
could be anywhere.
Pennsylvania. Maybe he had to drop something off there.
All right, we'll see. Did you get yours, MB Will?
I said Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what'd you say,
Lawrence? I was thinking North Carolina, but I think he was heading. It looks like he was heading north, though. That's why I didn't go south.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see.
We'll see. We locked in. Here. So, any other closing comments, guys, about media days while we wait to hear?
I mean, that's the last marker. That's the last mile marker before the season is media days, right? Camp will start here in a few weeks for the guys. Early August, mid-August, classes start for the athletes, and they start to get into the flow of their in-season routines. So they'll be transitioning to that here pretty soon. And this coaching staff, they've got to keep these guys focused. The guys that came to media days, Schenker, Hall, Tank, leaders on the team. I like the energy that they're putting out right now. They seem confident. Like Ike said about Tank, it's just, he's speaking up as a team leader. He's saying, hey, some of them guys had to go. The guys who stayed, man, I don't know, man. I really feel like there's some things that could happen there that are going to shock a lot of people. And everybody's going to be like, we didn't know Auburn was going to be this good. And we're going to replay every weekend tailgate from now until November. Just say we told you all that panic was unwarranted.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to take
Florida.
Wow.
So he went south.
Nice.
You can get to Florida in 12 hours from here.
So he says you can just drive 11 hours, and when I'm done driving, my girl drives 11. That's why we make it.
Okay, I see. I see.
Man,
because it's 12 hours from here, from DC to Atlanta. So they kept going, and they got to Florida. Okay, all right, I see.
Boom.
I'll remember that. See, they're trading shifts. That's important.
Yeah, see, that makes sense, because I'm expecting it just be jab, but that makes sense now.
Yeah. What's up?
Alex Wilson says, how much y'all need to get off them day jobs?
More.
Yeah, I was about to say. Do you want real numbers? Because let's talk turkey business at the War Rapport, and I can put a figure on it for you if you really want to know. So, because trust me, I've done the math.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, listen, amazing show today, guys. We hung out today. We hung out with y'all today to give you this coverage. So, guys, and it's our pleasure to do this for you guys. But Ike, tell the people why they need to become a patron right now.
Yeah, man, you need to go ahead and jump on the train, man. As promised, we got a lot of things coming for you. We are giving you great player interviews, and though you eventually get to see those, if you want to hear it first and not be the person that's waiting, getting quotes from your friends off of social media saying, "Oh man, did you hear what such and such said on his interview with the War Rapport?" You can be one of the first people to hear that stuff if you become a member of the War Rapport. We've got that great stuff, including a lot of what we're going to be doing with film breakdowns, which will be exclusive to our insiders, our patron level members. So you need to make sure that you are on board with that. And as we get into the season, member only chats and that watch the film session that everybody loves. Patron level only for that. So make sure you're doing that. Speaking of interviews we've got coming up, Damari Austin is going to be dropping for our members tomorrow. So if you are a member of the War Rapport, you'll be able to see that. Shedrick Jackson will be going live Thursday for everyone who is not a member. If you didn't get an opportunity to win yourself something with our giveaway today, thanks again to GWT2 Energy Consulting Services for always being a sponsor of the Weekend Tailgate giveaway. But you can go to our store. New website, by the way, coming very soon for you guys. I've been teasing this for a couple of weeks. We are right on the precipice of being able to deliver that new website to you right now. So if you go there, there's a splash screen up, but you can still go to click to shop and get into the site in that way. So make sure you go and support the shop there and get you some of that great War Rapport merch that we've got going on out there. We are on all podcast platforms as the Auburn Express, powered by the War Rapport. Great things coming up for that. Speaking of those great things, be Will, one more time, let the people know what they can expect, or they can go ahead and listen to as soon as we're done here on this live.
That's right. You know what? It went live between the first time we talked about it around the 5-minute mark, and now it is B. Will's Bum List, episode 1. We talked about some of the coaches from SEC Media Days saying things that just don't make sense, and it's sponsored by our very own Jazzy Joe. So y'all go check that out wherever you get your podcast. It is there. It is live.
Guys, we thank you again for hanging out with us, man. Before you get out of here, or if you're watching on replay, you got social media, share this video so that your friends, people who follow you, can have access to this on Twitter, Facebook. Use the hashtag. We greatly appreciate it. And guys, if you don't comment, do us a favor and at least smash the like button, guys. And if you're new to our channel, please be sure to subscribe to us and hit the notification bell so that you are alerted when we go live. If you want to interact with us, guys, on social media, that is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find us at The War Rapport. On TikTok, you can find us at TW Rapport. That's it for now, guys, but we will be back this week. Definitely tune in for our midweek report show. But until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.